So hey everyone, welcome to the Roundtable here at Tunnel Vision Sports. I'm your host, Jasmine Nichelle, and today we're talking about current topics in the NBA. We have a lot to discuss, but first, the results are in from the last Roundtable, and you guys voted. The winner is Fawad. Woo! Congrats, Fawad. He's not here today, but we will give him his special privileges on our next episode. So first, let me introduce our guest we have today. So today we have John Makuch. Hi, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. The NBA playoffs have already been great. We've only seen one game so far, but I'm ready to talk some round ball.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us, John. Next, we have Blake Beasley. Blake, how are you?
I'm doing great. Every time the NBA playoffs come around, it feels like a second Christmas. So I'm excited to watch some more games and talk some more basketball.
Thank you for joining us, Blake. Next, we have Dylan Holt. Dylan, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm just excited to talk basketball like the rest of these guys. The NBA playoffs are the best. Like John said, we've only seen one game from these series, but man, I'm so excited to dive into this. It's a great day to be a sports fan, a basketball fan. How are you doing, Jasmine?
I'm very good. Thank you for asking. Nice to see you again. And lastly, we have Evan Brooks. Evan, how are you?
I can't complain. Basketball is in my veins, and I'm happy to be here talking about it.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us. All right, so you guys might now already know the rules, but I will introduce the topic and give you each 1 minute max to give your best argument. After you hit a minute, I will buzz you and give you about 10 seconds to finish your answer. Next, another player can raise their hand and respond to you really, really briefly. We'll move on. Each player will each be able to give their responses, and once we are done, the viewers will be able to vote, and our winner will be given special bragging rights and special privileges in our upcoming episodes. So are you guys ready? All right, Dylan, because you won our roundtable 2 episodes ago, I will let you choose the order that we're going to talk in today. So you can tell us right now, what order do you want to go in?
I want to go last. I don't care the other order. I just want to go last.
All right, perfect. So we'll make sure Dylan goes last every time. Everyone else ready? Ready.
Do it.
All right. So our first topic of the day. What are your thoughts on play-in tournament? Should the NBA keep it or dump it? Let's talk to Blake first. Blake, what do you got to say?
I absolutely love it. I think the NBA should keep it. First, I'm going to break down the money reasons. I mean, the Clippers-Timberwolves game was the most watched game since opening night. It had 2.7 million viewers, which is up 33% from last year's. And last year's featured Jason Tatum and Bradley Beal. Last year, we got to see LeBron James and Stephen Curry play, and it wasn't even a finals game. And you get to see players like Anthony Edwards step up and have big performances on big stages. The Timberwolves fans were celebrating. Pat Beverly was crying. Anthony Edwards was celebrating, jumping on the table. That's fun basketball, and that's what I love to see.
Great answer. Thank you, Blake. Evan, what you got to say?
I'm with Blake on this. I would definitely vote to keep it. I admit I hated the idea at first, aside from the COVID season, of course. But I got to say it's grown on me. I love the competitive fire that it brings out. Just like he said, I mean, you got guys jumping on the table celebrating. That's crazy. But it's the love of the game that really shows and their desire to want to keep playing. It's almost like a quick little warm up for fans to prepare for playoff basketball as well. So I love that. And who doesn't love a winner go home situation? So, but when it comes to the effect that it has on the season, it provides organizations, to me, it makes them fight a little bit harder for the top spots. And if they want to, I mean, of course, if they want to avoid the play-in. So I also love that it's if a team's success is altered due to injuries or any other extenuating circumstances, it gives them life to an otherwise dead season.
Great answer, Evan. Thank you. John, let's hear it.
Yeah, it's tough because if I was an investor in the NBA, I would want this 100% every single year. But it's tough for me to sit here and say that a team that's 10 games under 500, over 10 games under 500, being the Pelicans and the Spurs, deserve a spot to play in the playoffs. So there is that kind of difference. It depends on the year, how well it works. Like you had that LeBron James, Stephen Curry matchup, and then you have the Pelicans and the Spurs playing, which didn't really make a lot of sense. So it creates a lot of great matchups, but also a lot of matchups that you don't really want to see or care to see, because for the 10 seed to have a shot at the postseason, it's a little bit unfair to that 7 seed, that 8 seed that worked as hard to get there. But I do agree agree that it makes those teams at the top avoid the play-in and want to work harder. So there's a lot of good, a lot of bad. I say we just keep it, see what happens.
Good answer, John. All right, Dylan, you're up.
I love the play-in so much. I love more basketball. And when you get the winner go home scenarios and the Friday night games, the night before the playoffs start, there's nothing better. And flashback, I'm not going to talk about this year's, but last year's, when we had Memphis and Golden State, Ja Morant became a superstar in the play-in tournament. Like, those kind of moments are so important to the NBA, the brand, making stars. Ja Morant's emerged as a top 5 superstar in this league, and the play-in made that. Like, that's, like, you can't, trade that. Like, it's going to be so important to the future of the league. I mentioned on the Dylan and Dylan show last week, like, this is going to be a huge part of Adam Silver's legacy, the play-in tournament, how it evolves. And, like, the first time a team goes from the play-in tournament and wins the championship, it's going to be a huge story. Brooklyn could do that this year, and we might get into that later. It's just so much fun. I love it. More basketball. Sign me up.
All right. Thank you, Dylan. Are we ready for our next topic? All right. What is the best first round matchup? This time, let's start with John.
Yeah, Dylan, I think you segued really great into this. The Celtics and the Nets is easily the best matchup. I was kind of torn between the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies series, but that Celtics-Nets series, if you like the Knicks-Hawks series from last year, you're going to love this Celtics-Nets series because you have the villain in Kyrie Irving with that Boston Celtics crowd that have had that beef for so long. You have Jason Tatum with that buzzer beater. That's just game one. You have Kevin Durant, who's arguably the best player on the planet every time he steps onto the court. That series is an Eastern Conference Finals matchup. It is such a good series. There's so much talent, and you have the storylines, especially with Kyrie and his interactions with the fans. Again, that Hawks-Knicks series is that, but just way, way more talent on that level. So I got to go with Celtics-Nets.
All right. Thank you, John. Evan.
I had to echo those same exact sentiments. I mean, it was more so it's like, what storyline do you want first? Obviously, it's going to be Brooklyn and Boston for me. The energy in game one, it was electric. You know, the back and forth action, the buzzer beating bucket by Tatum, those are the games that you want to see. And then, of course, I mean, it just sets the table for what you're going to see. I see it going 7 games personally, but of course you can't ignore the storyline of Kyrie and the Boston fans. There was a lot going on there. And I think that you have to have the utmost respect for Kyrie as a performer to be able to visibly show that he's somewhat affected by the Boston fans and how they're receiving him, but to still be able to go out there and give you 39, 40 points like it's nothing, that speaks a lot to the game that he has.
All right. Thank you, Evan. Blake, you're up.
To further echo what everyone's saying, I for sure thought Minnesota versus Memphis was going to be the best series. When I watched it, I thought it was peak playoff basketball until I saw a series where we got Ramadan Kyrie, not eating, not drinking during the day, but still giving out meals of buckets, scoring at will. And the reason this is such a good series is we have Kevin Durant, who's one of the best scorers of all time, if not the best scorer of all time. And we keep talking about Kyrie Irving. This series was literally 0.1 seconds away from being completely changed because Jason Tatum had the presence of mind to catch it and score. And we're talking about Kyrie Irving playing so great, and he's being guarded by the newly crowned Defensive Player of the Year, Marcus Smart. It's just great basketball around, great matchups, and it's just a great series, and I'm excited to watch the rest of it.
All right. Thank you, Blake. Dylan.
I'm glad you brought up Ramadan Kyrie because I feel like it's not being talked about enough what Kyrie Irving is doing while he's not eating, not drinking. He's so good. But I'm going to zag from everything you guys just said. It's Minnesota and Memphis. And I'm biased. I will put my hand up. I have no problem admitting that. I was in Memphis a week ago. Just the energy in that city on Beale Street at FedEx Forum, it's on another level. And Anthony Edwards said he plays better in Memphis because those fans, they're just a different breed. Like Boston fans, don't get me wrong. They're in Kyrie's head. It's the exact opposite. Anthony Edwards said there was 8-year-old kids saying, you suck. So he decided to just have his best game ever in his first career playoff game, 36 points, like just pull up jumpers everywhere. It was incredible. And I think what we're going to see is Boston, Brooklyn is the present of the league. You've got 2 teams that were built to succeed right now. Memphis, Minnesota's the future. And I think that's really exciting. These are two teams that weren't really like, yeah, Memphis was supposed to be good. Minnesota, no one ever thinks Minnesota is going to be good, no matter how much talent they have. They could have 7 all-stars. No one's going to be like, yeah, Minnesota's going to be at the top of the West. We've got these two teams in the first round with nothing to lose. Like, I guess Memphis does, but not really. They're ahead of schedule. Both teams are ahead of schedule. They're going to go all out every game. It's going to be so much fun. I want 7 games of Ja Morant and Anthony Edwards talking all the trash in the world to each other as they just go back and forth and let the best team win, let the best player win. Like, it's going to be so much fun. I'm all for it. I didn't even mention Karl Anthony Towns, who might be the 3rd best center in the league. Series has it all.
All right. Thank you, Dylan. We ready for our next topic? So what young player could be the X factor in the playoffs, or is the X factor even a player? Let's start with Evan.
Well, for the X factor, Tyrese Maxey is my guy for the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, when you have James Harden and an MVP candidate in Joel Embiid, granted, Jokic might get it, but Joel is right there. He deserves it as well. When you have those two guys on your team and you still manage to drop 46 points on the efficient night that he had, it speaks a lot. It speaks volumes. And he's showing how versatile he is on offense, knocking down deep triples like his name is Steph Curry, using his speed to penetrate the gaps and getting his teammates involved as well. Everybody expects Harden and Joel to show up. But if one of those guys doesn't, Maxey is the guy that you can look to fill that void.
All right. Thank you, Evan. Blake, you're next.
To further echo what Evan was saying, I got to go with Tyrese Maxey. First and foremost, shout out Anthony Edwards, by far my favorite young player in the playoffs. That 36 was cold-blooded, and since I want to count the play-in as technically a playoff, he gave the Clippers and Paul George 30, and he also had a good job of helping guard Ja Morant towards the second half. But I got to go with Tyrese Maxey for one reason and one reason only. Since the All-Star break, the 76ers are 10-1 when Tyrese scores over 20. That means they go as far as he goes. You only need about 15 more wins to win the NBA Finals. And if Tyrese Maxey scores 20 points in those next 15 games, statistically, they're NBA champions. So I love to see Tyrese Maxey continue to ball out and James Harden maybe get a ring.
All right. Thank you, Blake. John.
Yeah, it's Tyrese Maxey without a doubt. I mean, he is 21 years old. We talked about Ja Morant having a breakout playoff play-in series. Tyrese Maxey could be that guy next because he is just such a good guard. He's able to just cut through the defense. He's everything that they wanted Ben Simmons to be in terms of just being that guy that they can go to. So it's really clear why they did not want to give up Tyrese Maxey at all. I mean, everybody already said it. It's Tyrese Maxey every time.
All right. Thank you, John. Dylan.
I love the 76ers. I wanted to get that out before I say what I'm going to say, because I like Tyrese Maxey a lot too. I'm not going with Tyrese Maxey. I'm going Jordan Poole of the Golden State Warriors. Jordan Poole, man, he gets overlooked no matter what. It blows my mind. Like, I think Tyrese Maxey's a great pick here, but what Jordan Poole's just been able to do this whole season, like since the All-Star break especially, but in this first playoff game, 30 points with Steph off the bench, like, man, if he can keep that up, no one wants to see the Warriors. No one wants to see the Warriors anyways. It's the Golden State Warriors. But if Jordan Poole's dropping 30, no thanks. Like, if they get Steph in a rhythm, and you got Clay, Dre, oh man, the Warriors with Jordan Poole being like that, that's an X factor if I've ever seen one. Yeah, I'm going with Mama Poole's baby boy, Jordan.
All right. Thank you, Dylan. Evan, you have something to say?
Yeah, man. I'm going to tell you, Dylan. Jordan Poole was a close second for me as well, too, man. I mean, watching what he's been able to do, and especially in that game one, the only question that I have is, will he be able to keep that same energy when Steph is thrown back into that starting lineup?
I sure hope so, because he's a lot of fun to watch. He's been that way since he was at Michigan. So you got to think he will. And that Warriors system, it feels like it feeds to that. So, like, can you imagine a 3-guard lineup of him, Steph, and Clay? Good luck, NBA.
Man, if they can make that work.
All right, Blake, what you got?
One thing I want to add, and it's another Jordan Poole thing, is Kevin Looney was talking about before the playoffs. how Jordan Poole kept annoying him. And it's because he said for 2 years now, Jordan Poole has constantly been asking questions about what's it like to play in a playoff game? What's it like to play in a playoff game? He wants these moments and he wants to seek it out. You can tell when a guy wants the limelight like an Anthony Edwards or a John Morant, and you can see that in Jordan Poole's game every time he steps on the court. And I think I'm going to see that in the playoffs for the rest of it.
All right. Thank you, Blake. Oh, Dylan, what else?
Yeah, I want to add on to that. Jordan Poole wanting the limelight. I mean, look up Jordan Poole March Madness highlights. That's like what Jordan Poole was until like this last year. All those buzzer beaters he had at Michigan, they're like top 25 March Madness moments ever. And now it's like, oh, Jordan Poole's good at basketball. Who would have thought?
Thank you, Dylan. Anyone else have any final thoughts? No? All right. Our next topic. James Harden was recently quoted saying he has nothing to prove. Does he or anyone else have anything to prove to cement their legacy? Let's start with John.
Yeah, the whole thing about him not having to cement his legacy, he has to prove that he can win a championship, and that will cement his legacy. There's a lot of players with things to prove that they have to win a championship as well. Kevin Durant has to prove that he can win a championship with his Brooklyn Nets team. Your legacy isn't cemented until your career is over. So for James Harden, he's proved that he's one of the greatest offensive players of all time and all of that. MVP, all of that. But he has to prove that he can take this 76ers team to a championship, and then he will have nothing to prove, and he'll just have all the accolades he could ever ask for. But he's got to prove that he can win that ring.
All right. Thank you, John. Let's talk to Evan.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I feel like he's got not everything, because just like John said, he's a hell of a scorer, and he's shown that throughout his career. However, when you look at the MJs of the world, the Kobes, the Dwayne Wades, those are shooting guards that all have multiple rings. Now, you have James Harden, who, you know, he shipped himself out of Houston in a very dramatic fashion and did the same thing with Brooklyn. So now you have to start questioning, is he the problem? And if he can't get it done with somebody like Joel Embiid, and now we're seeing an X factor like Tyrese Maxey, now you really start to question, is James the problem? Also, he's got that hamstring. And ever since the playoffs last year, when he first pulled it, it's been somewhat of an on and off issue. And you have to question, is this the decline? Is this the start of the decline for James Harden, and how effective he'll be able to be in leading a team to a championship, if that may be the case?
All right. Thank you, Evan. Dylan, is your hand still up, or you have something to say?
My hand is not up. I don't know. Oh, I have to lower it. That is my bad.
Thank you. All right, Blake, let's hear from you.
Well, I'm going to answer James Harden quote with another James Harden quote, actually, too, which is when he left Houston and he said, "We're just not good enough. I love this city. I literally have done everything I can. I mean, the situation is crazy. It's something I don't think I can be fixed." Why would you leave a city you love because they're not good enough if you don't care about winning a championship? If you love that city, you will stay and try to win if you care about winning. But he cares pretty much at the end of the day. For me, he wouldn't leave Houston if he didn't want to go win a ring. And when he got to Philadelphia, first thing he said, "I'm turned, man. I'm excited. I'm a competitor. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to bring a championship to the 76ers in Philly." He can go back and say that it doesn't matter to him, but those quotes and also just the history of the NBA, championships are important. It's what separates greats from legends. Would Anthony Davis and Giannis make the top 75 if they didn't have a ring right now? You can answer that question, and James Harden needs to answer how much this means to him.
All right. Thank you, Blake. Dylan.
James Harden has nothing to prove to me, but the NBA community is really fickle, and everything rides and dies with rings. And James Harden doesn't have a ring. And that goes a long way with a lot of people. And the whole conversation that anyone wants to talk about is Michael Jordan versus LeBron. And anyone born between any of us on this right now will say, well, Michael Jordan has 6 rings. LeBron's he's got 4 now or whatever it is. He's been to a million finals. Like, that's the only argument, like, that people, like, die on that hill. And James Harden doesn't have a ring. And we're going to get into our finals predictions in a little while. I don't think James Harden's going to have a ring this year either, or the next year, or the year after that, because that's just not the kind of player James Harden is. And that's not me dogging James Harden. I just don't think that's who he is, and that's all right. I think James Harden's awesome. James Harden's one of my favorite players in the league. He's just not that, he's like Blake said, he's not trying to win. He went to Arizona State for college. I mean, like, he's not going to Arizona State to win a national championship. That's not how it goes. Everybody knows what he went to Arizona State to do, to have fun. And that's what he's done in the NBA. And he's an all-time great shooting guard. But, I mean, nah, he's still got stuff to prove, but not to me.
All right. Thank you, Dylan. Evan, you have something to say back?
Yeah, Dylan, you bring up a good point about the rings, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure we've all heard this before. Not all rings are created equal. Robert Horry's 7 rings don't make him the GOAT. You know, it doesn't make him better than Kobe, MJ, LeBron, and the list goes on. Personally, I feel like Bill Russell's, 11 rings are overrated. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean everything, but when you're putting somebody up against, like I said, an MJ or a Kobe or a Dwayne Wade, somebody who plays the same position, it starts to matter a little more.
I can only imagine what Kobe Bryant would say, like, whenever James Harden retires. If someone asked Kobe, they're like, all right, compare legacies. Kobe Bryant, James Harden, and we're saying James Harden doesn't win a championship. Kobe would laugh at that. And that's all. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
John, you have something to say?
Yeah, the problem is that, winning a championship again, it isn't the end all be all. It's not, you don't have to win a championship to be a great player in the league's history, but he said he has nothing to prove in this league. And he hasn't proven that he can just be a leader, period, for a team. And if he wants to be compared to the Kobes, the D Wades, the LeBrons of the world, like he said, he has nothing to prove. He's got to go out, at least lead a team to that championship spot to just have a chance to do that. Because if he doesn't, he's wasting Joel Embiid's career at this point. And that means he has something to prove.
Evan, you have something else to say?
Nah, I just fully agree with John. It's Joel is in his prime right now. And obviously he got off to a slow start with his health. And so that's a good point. Like, look, man, if you're not coming here to help me, you're coming here to hurt me. So, no, that's a good point. He's wasting his time, if not for a championship.
All right. Well, thank you guys. We're going to move on to our next topic. So what is your ideal NBA finals matchup? And also, who is your dark horse to reach the finals? Let's talk to Blake.
All right. Well, I was on a form of the Roundtable last year, and I broke down why the Suns statistically and defensively were going to come out and beat Milwaukee. And all logic says that the Celtics are going to go to the finals. I mean, they're 100. They have a record. Logic goes out the window when you see a player like Giannis Antetokounmpo come down the lane, score, do great. Is my internet good, by the way, or I can't tell if it is. Is it? Everyone was frozen.
A little bit laggy, but like understandable. Yes, you can continue going.
Okay. Pretty much, I had the Celtics versus the Suns. That's what my logic says. But I used the logic last year, and then a 7-foot Greek freak crushed all logic I had by scoring 50, strapping up a point guard in Chris Paul, and coming off that screen and blocking DeAndre Ayton in the same moment. I could talk about how the Suns are 137 and 47 since the bubble. I could talk about how the Celtics are the hottest team in the NBA. At the end of the day, superstars win championships, and Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best player in the NBA. I got a Bucks versus Suns rematch. I don't want to count the Suns out yet, but I know the Bucks will get.
All right. Thank you, Blake. John, what do you have to say?
Yeah, in terms of my ideal NBA Finals matchup, it would be the Celtics and the Grizzlies with all that young talent on that roster. Defensive Player of the Year in Ja Morant maybe getting a shot to take on that team. But without Robert Williams, I don't think the Celtics really have a chance to stop Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is just too big and too strong. So I also would agree that we're probably going to end up getting a Bucks-Suns matchup. So that's going to be tough to see. But dark horse, that Timberwolves team is tough. They are physical and they are strong. If they can get past the Grizzlies in the first round, especially with the talent of Karl Anthony Towns and all those dogs out there, they're going to have a really good shot to get to the NBA Finals. I know they're a 7th seed. I know we talked about maybe a play-in team getting far. This could be the year if the Timberwolves are able to get hot.
All right. Thank you, John. Evan.
All right. Well, I'm glad that I'm going to have a little bit of a different answer with the ideal finals, but I would choose Phoenix and Brooklyn. Brooklyn, I mean, it's the star power on both sides. It's the personalities, it's the stories. It's just a guaranteed great series. And I mean, when you got somebody like Chris Paul in Phoenix, he's an all-time great. but doesn't have a ring. So you love that story and his possibility of winning a ring. And after watching him hoop like he did in game 1 against the Pelicans, I mean, you can't help but to want to see him win. And then my dark horse is just like everybody else is Minnesota. I love the makeup of their team. And the way I saw them play against Memphis, they match up really well. I mean, hate him or love him, Pat Bev, he's the difference. He's the difference. He brings to this team beyond veteranship, he brings like this dog mentality that really probably was missing before he got there, like in the days of Jimmy Butler. So, I mean, what he gives to Anthony Edwards, Cat, he makes them a lot more of a problem, and he gives them this mentality that they can beat anybody.
Well said. So I'm going to have 3 answers here. I'm going to give my biased, my unbiased, and my dark horse. My biased, Grizzlies Bulls, because the Grizzlies would sweep the Bulls, and I want to see the Grizzlies win. I want to see my old college classmate John Morant get a ring. Unbiased, I think the best finals matchup is Golden State, Brooklyn. I think that would be awesome. There's so many storylines. KD against the Warriors, sign me up. Like, KD, like, was such a villain. Like, he was, like, the worst person alive in NBA terms when he went to Golden State. And I just went to Brooklyn, and everybody's like, whatever, it's KD. Like, people are starting to like him. I love him now. I'm, like, all about KD. I think he's awesome. And Brooklyn going from the 7th seed, like, no one considers Brooklyn like this underdog making their way to the NBA Finals. I mean, it's the Brooklyn Nets. They're a super team. But I think whoever wins that 2-7 matchup, Boston, Brooklyn, makes the Eastern Conference or the Finals. And then I think Golden State is a revenge tour for them, and I'm all about them making the Finals. I think they're just really good. And then my dark horse, I'm gonna go. Let's get weird. I'm gonna go Dallas. Why not? Luka Doncic's awesome, and if he can get healthy, I don't like the Jazz. I'm sorry to Jazz fans. I was really mean to them on the Dylan and Dylan show. The Jazz are weird, and they have bad chemistry, and that could go really bad when Luka gets back, because they gave him a run for the money without Luka. So, yeah, I'm going Dallas. Why not?
All right. Thank you, Dylan. Blake, you have something to say.
I just wanted to add in on it. I missed my dark horse on that, but it actually was also the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, when you look at it statistically, Michael Jordan averages the most points per game in playoff history at 33. Coming in at number 2, Luka Doncic. And we saw him do that against Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, with multiple game winners on the way there too. The Dallas Mavericks are a 3 seed, and nobody has talked about them because, yes, they can go as far as Luka, but they almost beat Utah without him. And I would love to see Dallas get a healthy Luka. And if they do, who knows? When you have a guy who can score 32 points per game, you have a very high ceiling.
Dylan, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to Blake, because I just kind of threw Dallas out there and he came in with support. So I just wanted to say thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dylan. All right. Moving on to our last topic. Should the MVP candidates still be able to make a case for the award in the postseason? Let's talk to Blake first.
I say no, just because it's a regular season award. There already exists an award for playoff MVP, and it's called the NBA Finals. If you think you're the best player in the playoffs, you're going to get to the NBA Finals most of the time, if not. I grew up with my favorite player being LeBron James. He was the best player in most playoffs because he could find a way to get to the finals. And if you can get there, most of the time, if you look at it, the Finals MVP was the best player that season, and the MVP was the best player during that regular season. When we look at the Finals MVPs in the history, it's been Giannis, LeBron, Durant, LeBron. If you are actually the best player during the season, you will find a way to get to the finals. And that's why they're 2 separate awards for a reason.
All right. Thank you, Blake. Evan, you're next.
I'm going to have to disagree with you, man. I feel like the playoffs should matter because it's all a part of the same league. It's all a part of the same season. If a player plays well in the regular season when teams are playing for the seeding, but doesn't play well in the playoffs, causing his team to fall short of their goal, does he deserve to be the MVP over the runner-up who maybe balled out in the playoffs and won the title? So, I mean, I understand a finals MVP award, but that's different. We've seen players like Andre Iguodala come out, finals MVP because he held LeBron James to like 30 points a game. So he was still not, and I mean, Kawhi Leonard as well, like when he was in San Antonio. those instances are honestly like the reasons why I am not a fan of, finals MVP being different from regular season MVP, because I mean, the finals MVP just doesn't matter as much sometimes. Sometimes it's just about a story. It's about who played the best defense. I think the finals MVP, to be honest, it's kind of more valid than the regular season MVP because, like I said, we're talking about somebody who, what they did on LeBron James is why they got that award. So it makes sense. But, I mean, they didn't have an MVP type of season, So, I mean, I don't know. It's up for debate, but I'm going to say it should be part of the conversation.
All right. Thank you, Evan. John, you're next.
Yeah, I don't think the MVP should count for the playoffs. It's also an incentive for players to continue to play hard at the season's end, especially when you have tight MVP races. If you maybe do the first round of the playoffs so we can really tell Embiid or Jokic or Embiid or Giannis or that kind of scenario, then maybe. But there's a reason that the finals MVP and the MVP are separate, and it's to incentivize two different things. If you have the MVP count all the way towards the playoffs in terms of this current regular season MVP, then the finals MVP isn't going to matter as much because at the end of the day, you're basically playing for two awards at the same time while you can have those Andre Iguodala's, get those final MVPs, because I think it's pretty good for the NBA in terms of storylines. Another thing to talk about. It's another reason for players to continue to play hard and play well in those championship moments because there's always a chance to win that award. So I wouldn't really complain too much if you counted it during the playoffs, but I just don't see a reason to change that, especially with the way that we've been doing it for so long.
All right. Thank you, John. Blake, you have something to add?
Yeah, the only thing I want to add in terms of runner-ups who could potentially maybe deserve a finals MVP, the most recent MVP runner-ups have been Embiid, didn't make the finals. LeBron did make the finals and won. He's LeBron. Harden didn't make the finals. Then we got LeBron, made the finals, lost. Harden didn't make the finals, lost. Harden lost. Kawhi lost. And also LeBron, who did win, but it looks like most of the time the runner-up isn't even winning the finals. So that's why there's two separate awards.
All right. Thank you, Blake. Evan?
I will. Now, when you throw in LeBron and losing, I'm going to, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to assume this is against Golden State. So I remember the series against Golden State when LeBron led both teams in every single statistical category. He was the MVP, but because he lost, he couldn't be. I think that's kind of weak. I think that's bogus. I think, they should bring back the days where they allowed a player on the losing team to take home that award like they did Jerry West. I think he might be the only person in history to do it. But if there was ever a player that was clearly the runaway MVP in the finals when they lost, it's LeBron James.
All right. Thank you, Evan. Dylan, you're last. Let's hear it.
So I'm going to say, yeah, why not? Let them build their case in the playoffs. I think it'd be fun, and I want to play devil's advocate. I think that giving them the extra games, because, I mean, whoever wins, if you're going to count the playoffs, it would be they're going to win 16 more games and win the NBA championship. So, I mean, it's going to be the best player in the world, like you guys have said. Like, it's going to be whoever was probably going to be finals MVP. And, like, this year, the MVP race, it's going to come down to Jokic and Embiid. Tongue twister. And I don't think either of those guys are going to win the championship. I don't think the Nuggets are going to win. And we've had a great time throwing mud on the 76ers. I don't think they're going to win either. So honestly, I think we might get the true MVP in a season like this, where, like, say Brooklyn goes in and wins it, and Kevin Durant wins MVP. That would be fun. And, like, the NBA is weird. Sometimes they do it where the award doesn't get handed out till August. So why not let the playoffs count? Because you're not getting out the award until 2023 anyways. So let all the games count. Let players build their case. And it kind of, like, eliminates other options because the people see and, like, they're like, oh, Jokic lost to Steph Curry or John Morant. And Embiid, he lost to the Chicago Bulls. Man, wouldn't that be a story? That'd be amazing. But yeah, I think it would just create like a funnel, and we get the right call at MVP, the real MVP, which I think has been a problem in the NBA.
All right, thank you, Dylan. Blake, you want to add something?
I just want to add on to Dylan. I hate the fact that they give it out after the season. I loved it growing up, seeing those pictures and videos of Allen Iverson holding up the MVP trophy in front of the crowd right before a playoff game. And I could imagine if you're the one who has to guard him that night, you're going to try to prove why he isn't the MVP. And if you are Allen Iverson, you're going to be like, I'm holding up this trophy in front of the fans. I'm going to bring it tonight. I really wish the NBA would bring that back.
John?
Yeah, kind of similar to that. You had Marcus Smart getting it presented to him at practice by Gary Payton. How much cooler would that have been if that was in Boston Garden? That moment with Gary Payton and Marcus Smart and that award presentation, then Marcus Smart gives a speech to the crowd. How much more amped up would that crowd be? And you have a better product on the court too. So I think we should definitely bring that back.
All right. Thank you, John. Evan, do you have any more final thoughts for us? You didn't say anything yet.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, though. I do miss those days of watching, fellow players from my Lakers hold up that trophy of MVP, whether that's Kobe or Shaq, and go out and try to get a victory. That, that dynamic before the games, just like you guys said, a player from the opposing team trying to stop that player and show why, maybe he's not as good as the award says, or, vice versa, that player trying to prove why he deserved it. That's must-see TV right there. So I do agree with that.
All right. So that was our last topic. So it's time to wrap up the show. So thank you for everyone for tuning in. And thank you to our super amazing guests that we had, all you guys. Everyone go like, subscribe, and comment on this episode of the Roundtable. And make sure you go vote on our social medias for your favorite player to win. And we'll see you all next time on the Roundtable.